this stuff was going on. So for that reason is the reason why she didn't come forward. She didn't want to be another person that looked like they were crying rape.
Right.
Which
you do, in all fairness, though, you do hear about some stories of organizations, of athletic organizations, sharing women and doing some pretty, not just women, but both, whatever sexual orientation you may be. They do competitions and they do things that kind of people could be, outside of that world could be frowned upon. But again, if they're getting consent, who's to say what is wrong? As long as the person doesn't feeling pressured.
Yes.
But a lot of the times they are. Let's be honest.
I think in that case, there was a lot of girls that were feeling the pressure because not really pressure from the guys, but pressure because they wanted to be accepted by the guys.
Or dating a guy that might be going into the NHL or something like that.
I'm talking pre-NHL.
You're
I'm talking OHL guys.
I'm
not talking about guys that are necessarily... I mean, there are a lot of them that now are in the NHL or have been in the NHL. But I'm... these are just, guys that played hockey and weren't necessarily going anywhere. And this is how they got off, right? This is dirty, disgusting things that... are absolutely funny to read, but
it's about the
story.
Lot
of these, it's always about the story.
It's about the story rather than the act itself.
That's like this website was guys would then go on and post stories afterwards, and that's when girls would freak out and cry rape, and then later admit that it was just they regretted it, and that's also something that I kind of wanted to touch on today.
Yeah, go ahead.
That. For all the girls or guys out there that regret something from being drunk or doing something that they wouldn't, that wasn't normally in their wheelhouse, if you consent to it then, it's not rape, it is regret. And that's something that I think is really getting mixed out there, is a lot of people are saying like, oh, if you're drunk, then you can't consent. Well, yes, you can. That's like saying...
From a legal standpoint, you can't.
Yes.
From a legal standpoint, if you go into any college or university and you want the true definition of consent, if you're drunk, you can't say yes. That doesn't mean that it doesn't happen. That doesn't mean that people aren't going to say... obviously, it's one of those areas where alcohol is just blurred lines completely, right?
Yeah.
So I understand what you're saying, because a woman could totally... think she wants it at a time, or a man could think that they want it totally and completely at that time. But if there is substance use happening, then you're technically not on a level where you can intelligently give that consent, if that makes sense. It doesn't mean it's not happening.
Yeah. Well, so I look at it as I've done some things while drunk.
Right.
That I then the next morning or a few days later woke up and went, why the fuck did I do that?
Right. And I'm sure there's many people out there.
Oh, yeah.
There's fucking, 3/4 of the sex happening in the world wouldn't be happening without alcohol.
Yes,
I guarantee
exactly.
it.
So at that point, I can't be like, well, he raped me because I was drunk.
Yeah.
And that's what I think is really getting, like, media and people are playing this off. It's like, well, if that's the case, then, give me my keys after I've been drinking and say, oh, well, I couldn't make that decision to drink and drive because I was already drunk. You're just opening it up to a lot of other things that if you can't make that decision, then you can't make any decisions. Right?
I think it already is completely blown off the hinges when it comes to consent. I mean, going around and talking to the colleges and universities when I was there was it's a pretty clear line saying that if you are drunk, but then you get into the whole instance of, okay, well, what constitutes someone being drunk? I mean, are you basically saying that you can't give, as soon as that beer touches your lips, you can no longer say yes?
Yeah.
Or I could take advantage of you if you do, and the fault's on me, or whatever. Yeah. But what if both people have been drinking as well, and then it seems to lie on the man's fault because the man's usually bigger and more aggressive in a lot of instances that, as we've seen in the past.
And so to touch on that too, I think that there are, from my experience, girls still make a lot smarter decisions while drunk than guys do. So then if think of how many guys go out there, have a few drinks, get into a bar fight. You don't really
see there
as
many times.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, you do, yeah.
But you don't see that as much with girls. Like, yes, girls do get scrappy at point, but there's a lot of girls out there that just they go out, they drink, they don't. But guys seem to make stupid decisions. The amount of people that I've seen, like, drunk after the bar in Grand Bend that walk the entire strip on the roofs of the buildings, jumping from building to building, only to get down across the street. Like, that's not something that you see girls doing. That's not really a smart decision.
So do you think that's more of a macho thing where testosterone plays a big part?
Yeah. And so if you're going to go and say, well, the guy was drunk and the girl was drunk, and then put blame on the guy, no, they're the ones that don't make the more sound decisions when they're drunk.
It's interesting to hear, like, and I understand yours was a special circumstance because someone slipped something in your drink.
Yes.
But it's interesting to see you have that stance.
Yes,
even
I know.
Now. Yeah.
And actually, my friend who had the opposite thing happen to her, she feels the same way. Mm-hmm. Like, she's the first person that will call people out. And I think both of us have always had really good bullshit readers.
Yeah.
But when it comes to people, like, talking about rape and stuff, both of ours are heightened. I can, like, look somebody in the eye, and if they're crying rape, I think I can tell if they're lying or not.
Really? So you have a whole... Interesting. So you're kind of saying that, like, you really, because you've gone through it now, you really almost have more of a disrespect for the people that are crying rape, as you say.
Oh, yeah. It's disgusting.
Yeah.
It's disgusting because it's making it more common. It's making it blurred lines for people when they're like, when there are cases when people are trying to say no and they're like, oh, well, you are still drunk or whatever. And they're making it too much of a gray area by talking about it too much, or fake instances of it happening.
Okay. So do you think that, because, I mean, by your logic, sort of, if I'm, obviously I don't drink anymore, but if I'm drunk at a bar and a woman's drunk, it doesn't even necessarily have to be at a bar. Say whether we're here. So if I'm sort of the aggressor and I'm saying, come on, I'm, as long as she can make the sound decision, because she can make a wiser decision when she's drunk and say, no, we shouldn't do this, then, as long as I don't pursue that, then she made the right decision. But if she says yes, then it's kind of on her.
Yeah, if she agrees to it.
Okay, all right.
Because, like, that's like...
Take
alcohol out of it.
You can't, though, because alcohol is, like, the big thing here.
No, I know, but say there was two people that were, having this conversation, alcohol wasn't playing a part of. If you still consent, then you still consent. Mm. There is no taking the only way is taking it back. Yes, and that's something that I also want to say. So
you can change your mind.
To the young guys out there, I really think this is a big topic for them, especially going into college and, or hockey players or basketball players where, like, the story is the big thing. So you feel more pressure to go through with it, or your hormones are so high that you just keep pushing for it.
Right.
No is not the only form of no.
I agree.
Body language. If a girl is pushing you off, that's a good sign that she doesn't want this to happen.
Sure.
If she's frozen and you can tell that she looks frightened, that's another thing that you kind of have to say, whoa, are you okay? Mm-hmm. Is this still okay to happen? And at that point, let her reassess, and you reassess, like, this doesn't seem like what she wants, then maybe I should stop doing it.
Right. Well, if you want to clearly define consent, it has to be sober. It has to be an enthusiastic yes, not just a yes, like, because like you're saying, you can say your body can say one thing and you can vocalize another. But that being said, a lot of people in that moment, if you want to be safe, especially if you're, let's face it, there's still a stigma towards men and being the more pushy and dominant. If you want to stay safe, then you really do need to push and make sure that you get an enthusiastic yes. If you're not sure, it's better to withdraw than to move forward. I'll tell you that now.
Yeah.
But
I totally agree with that. Yeah. But I'm just saying, like,
but there's so many. Every situation, I agree, is so fucking different.
Yeah.
But anytime you just want to make sure that the person that's with you, make sure that they're comfortable.
Yeah, that's a big thing. That's and I think that's kind of with the disassociation between relationship and that was because I was not comfortable. Like, that's built into my body that I was not comfortable.
So do you feel like your sex now, it almost sounds like you have to be a little bit numb, a little bit drunk. Is drinking usually involved when you have sex now?
For a long time, yes. Not so much anymore. Yeah.
Okay. And there's a disassociation there. So, like, do you find it enjoyable still?
Yes.
You do?
Yes.
Okay, that's a big thing.
Yeah. And I know that that's not the case for everybody, but I think because I always had a healthy sex life, that was something that I enjoyed, that I still, like, you know, my body still enjoys it. I still can, you know, can go down that way. I think it's just the emotional part that I have to be in a relationship, I think, first, and fully trust the person, like more than just normal people would, to have sex and be in a relationship with them. If I have sex too early with someone, I know that then there's no, like, the feeling just kind of stops.
It's really interesting because you're the first person that I've talked to. I mean, there's obviously a lot of women that I've talked to that even their first time, they're not really sure if they gave permission. There's been things where they don't know a lot of the time, or they, in certain experiences that they went through, they couldn't tell, but they didn't really know. And because they didn't know, they didn't push forward. You, black and white, you know that this happened to you and this was a non-consensual thing. Yeah. And this is the first time I've actually had someone come on and talk about the effects from it. So I really appreciate you being here, because it's new to me too. It's new to pick your brain about this kind of stuff. And
actually, since I messaged you this week, a lot of these things that I'm realizing have come to light to me. Like,
good.
I've always been a person that I write through things. Like, I write out what I'm thinking, what I'm feeling,
like
all
journal?
that stuff. Yeah, like I write through it. Yes. I have my whole life. But I didn't realize until the night that I messaged you, I was up till 4 a.m. and I finally, for the first time in 10 years, wrote out what happened.
Really?
Yeah.
Good for you.
And it was like, and that's why I kept saying to you, I am excited to do this. I'm excited to do this because it is something that I've always wanted to find an outlet to talk about this, so that other people, you know, don't have to go through it, or if they go through it, then they can know that they're not alone.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah. So would you, for anyone watching that's maybe going through something similar, would you be okay with them sending you a message? I mean, okay.
Yeah, that's, you know, I've always been a person that I will talk about it. Mm-hmm. I've never had a problem talking about it. I actually, this week, talked about it. I think all of my coworkers know now.
Good. Good for you.
Because I talked about it at work.
It's been a big week for you.
Yeah.
Good.
It was. It was a first, you know, and other things that I wrote with the writing, I always, in the last 10 years, I've had difficulties writing with any situation that I'm trying to write through, because it always, like, little bits of that, like, all of my decision making, when I actually sit down and try and, like, work my way through it, that would always kind of come back into it. Like, it would be, oh, well, I made this decision because of that or something, which I don't think is always true.
Right.
But when I'm trying to work through something, it's something, so when I'm sitting down and trying to work through something, that comes back up to me.
Very interesting.
I know.
That's awesome. It sounds like this has been like a really good week for you to grow.
And it has.
How do you feel after it? Just so people come, because obviously you're the first person that's reached out and actually wanted me to set up something for you, which I think is awesome. Yeah. So for anyone else, like, how do you feel right now? For anyone else that's nervous, that maybe has a story that they're thinking about, they want to share, whether they live in London, Ontario, which is where we do this, or anywhere where they want to write in, or even do a Skype call. Like, how do you feel? Do you feel a little bit of release?
Yeah.
Okay.
From the moment that I messaged you, I started to feel really good.
Good.
And then after I wrote, then I talked about it at work. My supervisor and I are extremely close. We've had people talk to us about, that's something that I also want to talk about. I'm still very open with talking about sex. My supervisor and I have been told that when other people are in the office, we need to shut up because we're too inappropriate.
Okay.
So I don't have that problem. It's not something that is super secretive to me or anything like that. So if you need someone to talk to, I'm free.
Awesome.
You're free.
Yeah. Well, I try to make myself as available as possible. And this is the thing, is it's like, I had no idea that just that message to me is making that much of an impact to you. And that's why I love doing this, because I don't know who's watching. This isn't about getting a fucking trillion views on YouTube or anything. I don't give a shit. As long as one person that sees this, that's meant to see this, if it makes improvements in their life and I don't even know about it and you don't even know about it, then that's making a difference to me. And that's using the internet for a positive purpose. Yeah. So, I mean, I think that this is great, and I want everyone else that's watching out there to really think about whether or not you have a story that you'd like to get out there that will be inspirational. And even if you don't, if you just want to share your story and get it off your chest, we're here. We can do the same thing that we did for Sarah tonight. This was kind of a I don't want to call it an emergency situation like broadcast, but when someone reaches out to me and they want to share their story, I want to get you on as soon